Good morning. Welcome to the second of these webinars looking at data, and we're focused here around lease interrogation, Gen AI, artificial intelligence, and I guess some of the practical use cases that we've got. Delighted to have Martin Betts with us from Entrust. For those who don't know Real Asset Media, we launched Data Uncovered around 18 months ago to focus a lot on what's happening in terms of the data side and how that's influencing the real estate and real asset sectors. So fascinating to begin to see some of these use cases come through. And maybe over to you, Martin, just for a quick introduction.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Well, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Martin Betts. I'm the Vice President for the EMEA region for Entrust Infotech. Entrust Infotech have been in existence now for over 20 years, employing over 1,200 people around the world. We exist to solve data problems in the real estate industry, and we continue to do so 20 years on. Now, we're going to be talking about AI today, and so AI actually isn't new to us. We've actually been working on AI since 2015, and we started utilizing AI for lease abstraction. Now, over that period of time, we've abstracted over 1.5 million leases in 40 languages, in over 100 countries, in all asset classes, and with all types of real estate companies, so investors, managers, corporate occupiers. Now, those stats of abstractions are quite important because the AI is only as good as the data it's been trained on. So the AI that we're utilizing has been trained on that experience over those last 9 years. So it's been trained on real estate terms from a global perspective, not just standard documentation, which really wouldn't allow it to utilize the data within leases. So anyway, that's enough of introduction. And so let's have a look on how this works, and then we'll go into a live demo. So the first thing we need is the actual lease documentation itself. So when I talk about lease documentation, this is not just the lease. We need all other documents associated with that lease. So all the amendments, rent memos, indexation letters, rent guarantee letters. Because when you want to put the information away, you need a full history of what's going on. So we will pick up those documents from the client's document repository, or it can be sent to a central location. We don't really care, if we're honest, how we get the information, as long as we get the information. Once we have all those documents, it then goes through our natural language processing, so our AI, to actually take the information out of the lease itself. Now, humans are still very, very important within AI. So when we take the information directly from the leases itself, the humans are there just to ensure that that's all complete. So when we're taking information from a lease, there's actually a huge amount of information in there. So if it was an abstraction, there's up to 500 data points based in 83 plus categories. So what we're actually saying here, we're taking all the information directly from the lease and annotating it, not abstracting it, we're annotating it. So the way AI would work, Lease AI would work. So first of all, it's really important that this information goes into your own private database within the cloud. This is not a shared environment for everyone else to look at your data. This is purely for you, the customer. So to utilize the AI, so effectively what you're doing with Lease AI is just asking plain questions of the lease itself. So I would ask, what is the permitted use of the premises? The AI would read through the documentation to provide you a simple answer back to you, the user. So here we go. Simple answer to a simple question. Now that question doesn't have to be in English. It can be, in this instance, in Spanish. And again, gives you a plain answer to a plain question. And importantly, no personal data is stored within the environment. So all compliance is met. We're utilizing different flavors of AI, OpenAI, Gemini, and Claude AI. So that's enough about the concept of it. Let's look at a real life example.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And just at this point, I forgot to remind everybody, so I'll do it now, which is just to say that you will see on the right-hand side of your screen that there is a comments button and a questions area there. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, please do pop those into the chat, and then we will try to make sure that we see these. I can see Tero and Dominic, you're already active in the chat. But yes, if you've got questions, please do add those in. Thanks very much. Really interesting to see this demonstration, Martin, and sorry for holding that up.
No problem, no problem. Allow me to have a drink of water. Okay, so excuse me. So first of all, we're just landing on a Lease screen. So this is in our platform Remap. Lease I run through our own proprietary Remap platform. Remap is used by ourselves for abstraction, due diligence, data aggregation. It's the platform that the Lease AI will come from. So in front of you, we have a standard lease. So this is a lease that we've actually abstracted. So as you can see, lots of information we've taken out of that lease, all the way through to the individual clauses. So this will be a classic way of interrogating a lease. So I've got all the information abstracted. From here, I've got an assignment and subletting. I'm going to drill through a particular point, run back through to the contract, look through all the different elements where the information's come, and try and get the answer to my question. But I'm just interrogating that. I'm not actually asking a direct question. So Lease AI is very, very different because I'm just going to ask it that question as we saw in the process. So here's my actual lease, and I'm going to ask it a question. So I call up we call it our friendly bot, and I'm going to ask it a question. So does the exclusive use have a time frame? Ask the question, and the AI runs through the documentation and gives you the answer back. So initially it gives you a brief answer. That could actually be a yes or no. Do I hold a deposit? Yes. So this is the answer to my question. But just like I did with the abstraction, I can actually come back to the physical lease contract itself. So I've got my answer from Lease AI, but if I do want to dig a bit further, get a bit more background to the answer, I can run through all the individual elements. And the answer has actually come from 4 different pages within the lease for a consolidated, concise response to your question. Also, as you will see, it's not just looking at one document, it's actually looking at 2 documents in this instance. So it needs to look through all the documents to ensure that the answer it provides you is the correct one. So you can just scroll through, find information you require. So it's not, I just may want to ask questions on more than one lease. So I could ask a question of my portfolio. I could ask a question about a particular region, a particular property, whatever I like. I can basically pick and choose what I wish to see and what I wish to ask. So in this instance, I'm going to ask a question of multiple different leases in multiple different properties. So can the tenant assign the lease to third parties? Ask me the question. So from here, what we're seeing is we're actually getting lots of different answers to the exact same question. Now, what that's pointing out to is potentially that my standard assignment clause in my leases is not standard. It's actually very different across all my lease contracts across my portfolio. So that may be a red flag to me to say, actually, maybe I should try and get some more standardization in my clauses. And so it's just going to be easier for me moving forward. So if I want to, again, I can drill through to the lease, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to export this information into an Excel document. So now it's been exported to Excel. So from here, I'm able to share this information with my colleagues, other people. Maybe to send it to my partners. What I could also do with information is then upload that to a data lake, to a third-party solution. So it's important that it's seen as not just a closed system. It's something that everyone can utilize, and the information from the actual system itself can go into your proprietary systems to utilize moving forward. And if you want to, you can drill through again directly from the lease contract itself. Now, if I've asked a question where I think that could be useful for someone else, I could add it to my frequently asked questions. And what I also may wish to do is actually say, okay, let me have a look at some questions that have been posed before. So from here, I could look at all questions that have been posed for a particular property by a particular person, or I'm interested in alteration clauses and questions that have been raised. Now, I think a key point from Lease AI is some of the questions it gets asked. So actual feedback from our customers who are utilizing Lease AI is generally they don't ask how much rent am I receiving? When is the lease end date? Of course, you can ask those questions, but generally it's utilized to get into the real depth of a lease, looking at those clauses, which could be quite substantial in their text, to kind of dig in and find those answers to that lost information directly into the lease. But as I've mentioned, you can actually ask anything of it. So looking through, so from this, I'm going to select a particular question. Here's one question. And from here, I can see who's asked the question and when did they ask it. So this is a different lease. So as you can see, this is very, very different. I actually haven't extracted any information from this. This is a lease without data. I literally have a start, end date, and the name of the lease. Now, this is what, again, a difference between Lease AI, because I can interrogate a lease without taking any data from it. It's a real differentiator, we believe. So as you can see, none of this clause information has actually been taken. It is purely empty. This has just gone through the AI and been annotated. So from here, it's a German lease. So for example, I'm just going to ask the question. Now, because it's a German lease, I may want to ask it in German, but there is no difference in functionality from interrogating an abstracted lease to a purely annotated lease. So here's my question in German. And because I've asked it in German, it's going to give my answer in German. But from here, again, I can drill through to the actual part of the lease to see the question, so the answer. So again, as you can see here, there's multiple documents that it's run through. It's got 4 documents that it's interrogating. But there's nothing to stop me asking an English question of a German lease, asking a Spanish question of a German lease, a Mandarin question of a German lease. But whatever language you ask it in, it will give you the answer. But if you drill back through to the documentation itself, you're going to get the actual language of the document, of the actual physical contract. So why do I keep going back to the document? So the answer is great, give me an instant response. But again, you may wish to dig in a little bit deeper. Your legal team may wish to look at the T's and C's of the actual question versus the answer, just to ensure that you've got a full transparency of what you're actually looking at. So I've got a French lease. So from here, I can ask a question in French. Here's my question, ask me, and again, my response is in French. Drill through to my category, and again, I have my answer within the document itself. Now, so we've posed questions in certain languages. So these are the languages that you can ask Lease AI questions in. So we believe we've covered all the major European languages, the major Asian languages. These languages are continually being added to, but if there isn't a language on that list that you want to interrogate, that doesn't mean you can't interrogate it. So if I have a Finnish list, a Finnish lease, I can actually interrogate that lease in any of these given languages. So that gives you a short insight to Lease AI, how it works. I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great, really interesting, Martin. To pick up on that, actually see a demonstration of it, how it works. I think the language side of that is really interesting. We've got a couple of questions have come in on the chat, and I'll pick those up. And of course, if you've got any other questions, please do add those, and I'll make sure we deal with them. But I wanted to just check on a couple of things. I mean, you mentioned GDPR, and obviously that's been a growing topic in terms of where servers are located. Particularly, we've seen that from the people we've been talking to. So what's the situation there? I guess how is that dealt with? Because there obviously is sensitivity as to whether the servers are hosted in the US, North America versus Europe. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, we are fully GDPR compliant. So we have servers throughout the world, throughout the US, UK, Germany, Middle East, throughout the rest of Asia as well. So it's an important point that our clients ask us because we deal with a global client base. So the locations of our servers in the cloud meet all our customers' criteria across the world. We also have a number of certifications, so ISO certifications, SOC 1, SOC 2, SSAE 18. We're independently audited by Deloitte. So yeah, we do get scrutinized a lot by our customers, and gladly we pass all tests. It's also important though that we're not holding any personal data though. That's important. We're not actually holding that. But yes, we believe we're covered to deal with the global requirement.
Okay, good. Question that's come in actually from Anthony. Let me just pick that one up, which was really around if it's an older lease, for example, that has been scanned previously, how effective is the AI looking at that, or is that something where you may potentially need to rescan it? So, what's the situation if it's an older scan of an older lease kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a challenge that we actually had for when we started subtracting, because AI will try and read all those dots and marks on the lease. So generally, what you find with a poor standard of lease such as that, the AI generally picks about 70% of that information up. But that's where the human in the loop comes in, because our team will review what the AI gives it, and they will complete the annotation where the AI can't read that. So it is a good question. So AI still isn't perfect. Let's be honest, it just isn't there yet. It can't interpret data yet. So yeah, so where we have an issue with that, the human stepping can see where the AI is struggling and will complete that and complete the annotation within the platform. And Lease AI will read that annotation when the human has delivered as well. So yeah, we will pick it up, but it is a good point. It's just a little bit more work. But it's not a huge amount of work.
Okay, good. And let's say somebody's, let's say, for example, I'm using, one of the major property ERP systems. How does this work with it? Is it something that can be integrated? What's the situation there, Martin?
Yeah, so again, a number of clients will use lots of different systems, SAP, Yardi, MRI, the list goes on and on and on. So yeah, what we do, we actually integrate Lease AI within the platform itself. So when they're in a lease in their platform, it actually calls Lease AI in our remap platform. So while it is exiting, say, a Yardi, an MRI, it will go into Lease AI. You can do exactly what we showed you today, and it will go directly back to your platform. So yeah, we put a link in these third-party solutions. We're very fortunate. We're partners with most of the world leading property solutions. So we have in-depth knowledge of how they work, excellent relationships with these companies. So yeah, integrated into third-party systems is not an issue. It's just a direct link to call our platform.
Okay, good. I've got quite a specific one from Caroline. Thanks very much for joining us, Caroline. I don't know if you're joining us from South Africa or Brazil, but the question is, hi, does the system work in South Africa and Brazil, Martin? So that's your question.
It does. We have clients in South Africa and Brazil. So yes, we have numerous leases that have gone through our platform, and we will deal with all the local language. We will deal with all the local laws and regulations as well. So yes, we have many in both those countries.
Okay, great. A question also from Rafal. Rafal, thanks very much for this. What kind of data from leases do you keep, and could it be used for any other purpose, i.e. research or AI learning? I mean, that's interesting because the AI learning part of it is an interesting topic, I think.
Yeah, it's again a really good question. So I think a good example of that actually was in the pandemic, where especially from our retail customers, it's with tenants not being able to pay their rent. So it's force majeure clauses and any information that can be taken to negate the loss of rent. So what I would say, if there is anything in that lease whatsoever, it can be taken. So what we've seen in the past, especially when we've audited systems, is that this clause information, and there's lots of different elements that just isn't taken at all. It sits there in the lease, never to kind of be looked at again, or it's taken out as a large piece of text, which then reporting systems can't utilize. So what we try to achieve is where you have that clause, you take the granular information. So within an alteration clause, there's liabilities, there's dates, there's notice periods, there's amounts, and each of those we will take as a data point to then deliver to a third-party system so they can actually report on every given point within the clause, not just having to read through text or ask it questions like a Lease AI, like with Lease AI. But if you are asking a question with Lease AI, if there's a pertinent question you need to request, then be very specific with your question, ask the whole portfolio the answer. You've then got that information in an Excel document, transfer that to your data lake, and that is then reportable within your BI solution. So it's actually up to the customer what they want to get out of it, because if it's in the lease, it can be taken out. It's as simple as that. I'll give you one other user case example where slightly different, but we have one of our customers that is taking all their data from their leases of their current portfolio, but they're also getting all the information from investment teasers and putting that into their own data lake. So it's just coming through the platform. Information is being ripped out, put their data lake, where they're now looking at trends, sales prices, average rents going across different portfolio types across the world, because the data is in leases, the data is other documentation that can be utilized moving forward.
Let me pick up another couple of questions there. This is from Alex. Alex has got two questions, but we'll start with question one. What is the extent of its configurability? Specifically, can users customize the parameters to prioritize certain clauses, data points, or formats? So that's a quick question in terms of, I suppose, customization, those kinds of things.
Yeah, you can customize it, tailor it, whatever words, to your own unique requirements. I would say we have over 700 clients, and I don't believe there's one style is exactly the same as others. We have customers that really want to get granular with their data, other customers that are quite happy to take basic information and more text-like information. So the answer is yes, you can customize it to your own unique requirement. And what other customers will also do is they customize it to different asset classes. Obviously, retail is very different to logistics, very different to office. So yeah, effectively, you can customize what you take, how it looks, the data that's delivered to your own unique requirement. And that sounds like that's hard work. It isn't. It's part and parcel of what we deliver.
Okay, great.
They don't see the customization at all. That's something that we bear.
And the second question here from Alex is, what's the typical time frame for deploying the product within an organization? Are there any prerequisites or preparatory steps required? Which I think is actually a very interesting topic, in fact, just in terms of, you know, how much preparation there is in order to bring these things in.
Okay, yes, it's a good question. So, I mean, the platform remap can effectively will be delivered within a couple of days. So from the annotations of leases coming through, it depends on what they are and how it's utilized, but if you've got, say, 100 leases, you'll get that delivered, annotated, and fully operational within 2 weeks. What generally happens when we take on new customers is the first week we're coming to terms with how those documents look, how complete they are, and often the case is the documents aren't complete. So I mentioned 1.5 million leases. 35% of all leases that we get are incomplete, not signed, pages missing, amendments missing. So the delay is often with the customer because they don't have the complete set of documents. Once we have that, 100 leases generally take 2 weeks, and then you're generally taking 75 leases, 100 leases a week. Sometimes quicker. It depends on the quality of the lease, if truth be told. But I've had one recently where it was a 500 lease annotation to implement Lease AI, and that was the minute we just started work. So the minute they started using it was within a month.
Okay, so actually the time frames are not that long in general. And just to drill down a little bit into that, and sorry if I'm taking over that question, Alex. Just to drill down a little bit into that. So you were mentioning there that often you're getting leases that aren't complete. So what is the process there? Presumably you spot that fact and then send that back to say, look, there are issues with these these leases, take a look at that, get those amended and send them back to us. So actually you're driving that part of the process?
We are, yeah. So we will check every single document that comes to us. So yeah, we will find if there are pages missing, if a document is referenced, and that where is the document that's been referenced, and you'll be amazed how many leases that aren't signed by both parties. That's really, really common. So no, before it goes through the AI process, we have a full QC check of the document before we even start, and we will highlight to the customer exactly what is missing. You know, so page 5, for example, that's just, we go for, that is completely missing. We need page 5. Where is it? Amendment 3 is missing. Page 5 of Amendment 3 is missing. So yeah, we will go very granular to the exact document and highlight to the customer, this is what you need to provide us.
And QC in this version, it means quality control. I'm guessing.
Sorry,
okay, yeah.
Quality
Great.
control.
No, good. I always want to make sure.
Yes, I'm not a judge.
Let's pick up on a couple of questions, and again, if you've got any more questions, please do put them in the chat, and we'll make sure we come to them. But I guess you've been in the industry for a while, Martin. So how much of a change is this? What are the benefits of it? And I guess, I mean, if it's helpful to split that into for occupiers and, let's say, for example, the investor owner side. But I guess how much of a move is this? How influential do you think this sort of AI is in terms of efficiency, speeding up processes?
Yeah, I mean, I have been in the industry a long time. I once had hair. The it's the speed of getting your answers. That's the key thing. But I can give you real life user cases of when I've spoken to my customers, ask them the question of what are you seeing? What's the benefit you're seeing? So if I start just with a corporate occupier, so generally a corporate occupier does not have a large property team. This is not their core business. So a cost of an abstraction, maybe the time it takes to abstract is it's their number one priority and potentially will hold them back. So you don't need to abstract anymore. An annotation is far quicker, it's far cheaper, and they can still get their answers from their leases without having that hefty abstraction project. Secondly, again, from a corporate occupier, it's because there'll be other members of their team that maybe aren't part of the property team that don't really understand property. They can ask questions easily in plain English and get answers. You don't have to be a property expert to get certain information. So the corporate occupier has seen a massive uptake because it's just so much quicker and so much more cost effective and timely for them. Because a lot of these people don't have property systems at all. It runs off Excel, and so getting to that information is difficult for them. This is a lot easier. From the property manager and investment side, a couple of key ones that came across is, again, is the time, but the cost saving it is for their customer services team. So they will have tenants contact them asking questions of their lease. One gave me about a sign, what they could do outside their shop. And it was very specific in the lease. Like it can be no longer than 5 meters away from the shop. It can be a meter high. It's got to advertise X, Y, and Z. And before that could have taken, my customer said that used to take me days to find. And now I have that directly to the customer. It takes me seconds. One of my customers is actually uploading Q&As to their portals for their tenants. So the FAQs that are coming through, they're delivering those to their customer portals, so the tenants can self-serve. So it's generally efficiency, speed, but getting to the right answer to the question. So they are actually giving a specific answer. It's not, it could be this, it could be that. So speed, efficiency, and correctness is and cost effectiveness is what we see.
And I guess in terms of that, the accuracy part of that, I guess it depends on the question that somebody's asked, as it would do generally for a search. But I suppose how confident are you that it's bringing back the right questions, the right answers, if somebody's putting in the right questions? What are the key things for people to actually really benefit from this? And I guess how can they be certain of the accuracy of the answer that they're getting back?
Yeah, again, it's a really good question. Now, you will see sometimes it's called AI blindness. So you could ask it a question and it will effectively say, I don't understand. You change a word slightly, and also it does understand. So you do see occasional things like that. I see all the time. I utilize this platform continually. So occasionally you get that. Sometimes you just have to ask questions slightly differently for it to understand. But then the system will learn from that. So that comes from the machine learning. So that will be pumped back into the AI saying, look, you need to be able to understand this term. So where people do struggle, that goes back into the algorithm so it understands for the next time. In terms of accuracy, Again, another important question, because AI can't interpret data. So where it can't interpret data, that's where we do get the humans in the loop to say, okay, look, it means this, just in case you're struggling. But if that is missed and things are missed, where it will give the answer, if you are slightly unsure of the answer, what is in that contract is real. That is signed. So if you are unsure about the answer, you can actually read the terms and conditions. It will take you to the exact part of those terms and conditions. So you can double check to see if it's correct. Is it faultless? No. I don't believe any AI in the world is faultless, but it's a very, very long way there because of what it's being trained on, what it continues to be trained on. So what I would say, if you're utilizing it, you don't get an answer, rephrase the question. If you're slightly unsure about the answer, just click back to the document just to confirm, and it's indexed to where you need to be. Just reread it. Yep, okay, I'm cool with that answer. I'm happy.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, isn't it, there? I think that you can actually then drill down back into the actual document to be able to cross-check. A couple of other questions just coming in. Dominic, thanks for this one, which is how many people from an organization can have an access to the system at once? I don't know the answer to that, Martin, so how many?
Everyone. There's no
Okay.
limit to the users at all. We actually want people to use it. So the security of the platform is entirely up to the customer. So you may want some people to ask questions, other people not. You may want some people to be able to ask questions with certain criteria of a lease. So actually, I don't want them to be able to drill into force majeures, alteration clauses, whatever. All they can see is this part, but not see that part. So yeah, it's for everyone. We would like more people actually. So again, a classic example, we have customers where their owners and their property managers and their fund accountants have access to ask the questions themselves. So they're third parties. So it's limitless.
Okay, interesting. And interesting that you can also then adjust, I guess, people's access rights to it. But in principle, everybody can. Okay, good. Question here, and this is the final one I've got on the chat at the moment. So if you've got another one, put it in straight away so that I can pick it up. This comes from Ian. And as part of the interrogation, would the AI take into consideration deed of variations and other supplemental documents? So I guess that's a check on that. Yeah.
Yep. It will look at every single document. You have to deliver it, but that goes for our quality check. So if there is a reference to that document, we'll pick that up and say, right, we need that deed of variation. It will then go through the AI process, which means you then can ask questions of it. And when it gives an answer, it's going to look through the whole of that process. So if the answer has changed as of that deed of variation, it's going to pick up the answer. So it's going to pick up the latest point, but it will give you history back to look at how that has changed over a period of time. But short answer to that is yes, it will.
Great. Really interesting, I think, to begin to see AI actually beginning to take a part of the industry here, and we're beginning to see use cases for that. Thanks very much, Martin, for taking the time to run through that. Certainly, I've got a greater clarity on it now, having seen how that actually operates. And very interesting questions as well from everybody in the chat. Really interesting to get that take on it and see us be able to drill down a little bit more into some of these topics. Thanks very much to everybody who's been watching online. Thanks to you, Martin, of course. And if you're watching this on demand, then thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.